Now we're going to talk about scales. Now scales really is the heart and soul of auto-tune because it's through the scales feature that we can tell auto-tune what it is and isn't looking for in a vocal. So I've got an example here of a phrase where the girl's singing, and in her defence she was kind of learning the song as she was doing this, so she's pretty sloppy with her approach because she was more just playing with her melody. But you'll hear some problems here. Let me just bypass first and now play the phrase.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Now, if you were looking at the keyboard down here, you can see that she was singing a phrase in the key of E, and she was starting on the 5th scale degree up here, the B. And I'll play it one more time so you can just look at this keyboard and see what's going on there. So she's in the key of E major, as we can hear.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Okay, now you can hear that she's flickering around a lot. You can see the keys kind of flashing on and off here as she's missing scale degrees and going to a semitone either side. Now if I bring auto-tune into the picture and set it to something quite normal, so I'll slow this down. It's on 17 at the moment. Bring it down to like a 25 or something like that, which is a typical thing you might hear. And I'm trying to back some of her vibrato off there, so I'm using the natural vibrato feature just to take a little bit of the edge off her. And as we've discussed before, I've got targeting ignores vibrato on, and you know what that is from the previous movie, and a little bit of humanisation just on those longer notes, but in this particular phrase she's not holding any notes that long anyway, but it doesn't matter, I'll pull it back a little bit, and I'll take this formant control off. So let's have a listen to how things sound now.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Yeah, now as you can hear, things have got worse. Now we're in E chromatic at the moment. Now some of her notes that should have been on major scale degrees were dragged onto minor scale degrees, exacerbating any problems we've got. Now one approach we can do certainly is to say, well, this song's in E major, let's go to E major. And straight away you can see the scale degrees that are not in the key of E major are removed from here. So we've just got the 7 scale degrees that do exist in E major. So just for the exercise, let's have a listen to how that makes her sound.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Okay, it's better, but I'm still hearing a couple of notes there that are wrong. They are going to notes that are in the scale of E major, but they're not the right notes. So there's other ways of going about this. And one is, rather than force this E major scale from here, let's go back to chromatic. And before I do that, keep your eye on this section here and down here and see what happens when I go back to chromatic. Right, so I get more options down here again, and these two buttons appear, set major and set minor. Now, this is another way we can achieve effectively the same result as switching to major here. So if I say set major, immediately we get some action on this keyboard down here that you can see, and some action in here. And this is one of the most powerful features of the auto mode of auto-tune, and that is, while we can choose a scale, we can also choose scale degrees within that scale to bypass or remove. Now bypass means that they'll go into auto-tune fine, but auto-tune will ignore them and not act upon them. So for instance, if we're going to bypass the note B here, and you can see that's gone sort of a tanny brown colour and it's reflected on the keyboard down here as well, that means that when auto-tune detects that the singer is singing a B, rather than correcting them, it completely leaves that note alone. And so the first notes of this phrase are Bs, so let's play that.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and...
Right, now it's hard to detect there, but it's actually now ignoring that B and letting it pass through exactly as she sung it. If I take the bypass off, it'll tune that B.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and
you can hear the difference. Back to the bypassed version.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast.
You can hear she used her way out of tune on that note, and she's warbling around a little bit as well. So in this case, it's bypassed. But the alternative to bypass is to remove it. And that means if auto-tune detects a scale degree that has been removed, it will automatically throw that note to the closest one on either side, no matter how far away it is. So to give it a silly example of that, I can remove all notes then, except, say, the note B. And now every note is going to try to be forced to a B. Now, because of the speed we're at here, it's not going to be very effective, but have a listen to this.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Right, so it's attempting to make every note a B, and if we put the retune speed on super fast, well, it's going to have even more luck. I'll turn the humanize down if that makes any difference there.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
So he thinks that B is the only note that is allowed. Let's get back to a normal state. So we'll say set all here. As you can probably work out already, set major will eliminate the scale degrees that aren't in the major scale of the key we're in this case E. Set minor the same, sets the minor keys only. Set all kind of just gets us back to an even playing field, so I hit that and everything comes off. Bypass all straight away bypasses every note, so effectively we've rendered auto-tune doing nothing in terms of pitch, but other features will still work, such as the vibrato features as we were showing in the previous tutorial, even though auto-tune's not trying to correct pitch. And remove all, which in this case will also render auto-tune's pitch correction redundant because it won't be doing anything. We've pretty much said all notes are off limits, so there's nothing for it to do. Except as we said for the vibrato functions, which are operating outside of the normal pitch correction. So let me set all and show how we can use some of these features to our advantage. So in spite of the fact that I can set this to a major scale, we've shown that some of the notes are still not the right notes. I'll slow this down again back to 25 or wherever we were, somewhere there is fine. Now let me play again and have a listen to the notes that we have got.
Driving fast, gonna be a blast, and I'm nearly there, people.
Okay, that second phrase, I'm nearly there. Let's just play the front of that again.
I'm nearly there.
Right, she's actually not getting down to the G sharp that we need her to get to. She's getting sucked onto the A note there. So straight away we can come here and even as though the A is a legal note in the scale of E major, we're going to remove it. And we can do that because in this phrase there's no other actual A's playing that we do want. So now that that A is removed, when she comes down there and doesn't quite get to that G sharp, well, it's not going to drag her to the A because the A is out of bounds. So the G sharp will have to win then. So here's just that second phrase.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
There, see, I'm nearly there, and now she gets that G sharp perfectly.
I'm nearly there.
I'll take the A out.
I'm nearly there. I'm nearly there. I'm nearly there.
So you can hear the difference there. Now she gets to that G sharp perfectly, and it sounds totally natural. So that's just one example of how the remove can function, and I'm going to keep this A note removed. Now let's hear the last note of this phrase and hear how she goes with that.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't quite sit on that bottom E that she has to settle on. So you can see here now, this G sharp is legal, all the way down to this E being legal, but anything in the middle is not a legal note. So now it's going to force her down to that bottom E on the last note.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
Right, now of course this little slide down to the E now gets all messed up because we've blocked these notes, but just for example's sake, you can hear that she does now get to that bottom note.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
Now I'm going to set all again. Actually, I'll set the major key again and just show the keyboard down here can actually be used for some hands-on work as well. And these two switches here are the important ones for this. This one lets us choose whether we're activating the remove function, as in this column here, or the bypass function, as shown in this column here. Over here we can select whether we are latching the control, which means that when we put it on, it stays on. So there it is. I've just latched a bypass for that note and I can turn it off. Or the momentary version, which means it's only on for the period that I hold the note down. So I'm clicking down, and as soon as I click up again, it goes off. So in a way, we can perform this in real time. So let's play that phrase again.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to latch this A here. So that first half of the phrase now.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere.
Right, so that's working well. And now I'll switch over to momentary, and maybe I'll pull this F out on her way down the scale, trying to get to that bottom E.
I'm nearly there, people everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, and then she hits that bottom E perfectly then. Now this might seem like a little bit of work, but the reality of auto-tune is that if you've got a track that starts to get fiddly, like I'm getting on this phrase now, well, we probably wouldn't be working in automatic mode for this anyway. We'd switch over to graphical mode where every single, whim or desire you might have can be dealt with. So for anything that's got any level of complexity, graphic mode's where you're probably going to want to hang out. But one thing worth mentioning to give auto mode a little bit more power is the fact that many of these controls are totally automatable. So you can have scales automating in and out on the fly, you can have retune speeds and humanizing and all these sorts of things moving on the fly. And I'm in Pro Tools here, but looking at the Pro Tools automation box, you can see all these controls that you can see in that list are totally automatable. So real-time changes can be programmed in. That's not going to be a problem. Now, just for the record, this set major and set minor button here, they only appear when you've called up a scale that has more than 7 scale degrees in it. So as you noticed before, of course, when I was in major or minor, they disappear because there are only 7 scale degrees there. But as soon as you go into a scale that has more than 7 scale degrees, they become available, even if it's those more exotic ones. So I call up Indian and it's available there. So that's scales in Auto-Tune 7, and in the next video we're going to tackle this create vibrato section over here. So I'll see you then.